I just left day one of the Tolkien conference and my brain is aching. I think it's partly because I'm dehydrated. I haven't drunk enough water today, but wow, I am just. I thought I knew Tolkien, I thought I knew The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And then I go to this academic conference and hear from scholars who have studied these guys their whole lives and their whole careers, and I just realized how much I don't know. How deep the level of depth is to these stories, to Middle Earth, to Tolkien's world. It's unbelievable. All I know is that I know literally nothing. I have a superficial understanding of Tolkien and The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and the Silmarillion and everything that goes with it. And that makes me really sad, but also really excited to learn more and to dive deeper. And I'm still young and I still have, hopefully a long life to read and to wonder and to stand in awe of Middle Earth, of imaginative literature. And yeah, so I'm just excited to kind of begin this journey that I thought I was already a ways into, but really it's not. It's an unexpected, new intellectual journey for me, I think. Hello friends, this past weekend I attended an academic conference titled A Flame Imperishable, The Life and Legacy of J.R.R. Tolkien, and I walked away just astounded with how much there is to know about Tolkien and his works and Middle Earth, and how little I know. And I've grown up reading and watching The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, familiar with the characters, knowing the world, and yet I have barely scratched the surface of Tolkien's legendarium in terms of the lore, the history, the languages, the mythology, the greater meaning beneath it all. There is a whole world of meaning below the surface of Middle Earth. And so I've decided that this winter and this coming year, I'm going to spend as much time as I can reading through Tolkien's legendarium, reading through The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion, the unfinished tales, the histories, as well as his essays and poetry. I hope to read a biography or two on J.R.R. Tolkien and also read some secondary sources. I happened to pick up a few really good ones from the conference. I got Tolkien for Beginners by Louis Marcos, which just gives an overview of all of his works, kind of a simplified, digestible overview, and I want to read that before I actually dive into his works. I got the book Tolkien Dogmatics by Austin M. Freeman, Theology Through Mythology with the Maker of Middle Earth, that examines exactly how Tolkien's Catholic worldview affected the way that he built Middle Earth and the way that he wrote the story of the creation and the history of Middle Earth. What strikes me most about Tolkien's legendarium, and what is so often missed, misunderstood, or ignored by the literally millions of people who read and watch Tolkien's works, is how deeply Christian they are. In a letter to his son, published after his death, Tolkien stated that The Lord of the Rings is a fundamentally religious and Catholic work, unconsciously at first, but consciously in the revision. As a Christian myself, this is so abundantly clear, especially once you get into the early history of Middle Earth in the Silmarillion. Now, Lord of the Rings is not a Christian allegory in the way Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia series is, but it is deeply and profoundly Christian, so Christian, it might be argued, that you can't even see it. Tolkien, whether intentionally so or not, was engaging in imaginative apologetics as he wrote his legendarium. What I mean by that is this. Tolkien believed that fantasy has the power to give an imagined world and imagined characters something of the real and the true. He also believed that humanity's desire for truth and goodness, the faith in which had been ravaged by 2 world wars and the existential crises that came out of them, needed to be reawakened, and he believed that imagination could use beauty to direct the heart and mind to truth and goodness. Through story, these things resonate more fully because humans are narrative creatures. So, as I set out to read my way through Tolkien's legendarium, it is my aspiration to stand in awe of the beauty, recognize the truth, and direct my heart towards the good and seek to embody it in my own life and in my own art. I hope to learn from Tolkien the Christian what it means to be an apologist for the faith through art. And I hope to learn from Tolkien the artist how to invent and write a world so beautiful, so good, and so true that readers of all creeds and confessions cannot help but be drawn into it. The materials that I'm using to begin this journey are this incredible leather notebook by Moonster. I bought it off of Amazon, but it's a product made by a family-run business, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It looks like the notebook that Bilbo would have used to write his adventure there and back again, and I'm just so in love with it. Then I have my primary and secondary sources, of course. The Silmarillion, The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbits, and then the books that I talked about earlier. So in terms of the order in which I want to read through Tolkien's legendarium, I want to start with the biography of Tolkien, and I have a new one by Jeremy Johnson. I also might get my hands on the one by Humphrey Carpenter, and then of course I have the Inklings biography of the Four that I read earlier this year. Then I want to read Tolkien for Beginners by Louis Marcos, just to give me an overview of his entire legendarium. Then I want to read On Fairy Stories, the essay by Tolkien, and Mythopoeia, his poem. After that, I want to dig into the Silmarillion, and that is probably going to be my slowest, most thorough, because that's what it deserves as the ultimate source of lore and history for Middle-earth. Then I want to read The Return of the King, the third book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I've just finished The Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers with my husband, so I don't want to necessarily reread those right away, but I'd rather just move on to number 3. I've also read The Hobbit this year twice, so I'm going to leave that one at the bottom of my list for now. Then I want to read The Adventures of Tom Bombadil by Tolkien. Meeting Tom Bombadil in The Fellowship of the Ring has just made me kind of in love with him. I think he's so cool. I want to read more about that infamously mysterious figure. Then I want to read The Letters to Father Christmas, which is a series of kind of stories that Tolkien wrote for his children around Christmas time. Hopefully I can read those around Christmas time. And then finally, I want to read The Unfinished Tales. And that's as far as I've got in terms of creating a reading list. I do know that there's much, much more, but I think that is a good start, and that's going to take me probably half a year. I'll give myself 4 to 6 months. We'll see how it goes. Hello, friends. I'd like to invite you to join me on this journey and to read alongside me as I make my way through Tolkien's legendarium. Whether you're new to Tolkien, whether you've read none of his works, or whether you're a longtime fan, I think he is well worth coming to, of course for the first time, but again and again. I am so excited to take this deep dive into his works, but I would greatly benefit from hearing from other people who are also reading his works and hearing how they have been affected by his works, how they're interpreting his works, hearing any questions that they might have. It's just so much more fun to read alongside people who have the same love and intention for the literature that you're reading. Let me know if you're interested in joining me on this. I plan to make videos, kind of video diaries, as I make my way through the legendarium, and I'm also tracking everything in my big notebook here. So you will get updates on me from where I am, and I would like to get updates from you in terms of where you are. Just like Frodo needed a fellowship to get through his journey, I need a fellowship to get through this Tolkien literary journey. There's also a great podcast that I want to recommend called the Prancing Pony Podcast, where two guys go through all of Tolkien's works. I think they've done the Silmarillion so far, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and they've looked at On Fairy Stories and Mythopoeia. So this is a great podcast to listen to while you're reading through Tolkien's legendarium as like a supplementary kind of voice speaking about the work as you read through it. They have episodes for every chapter of every work, so it's just wonderful. So that is where I want to end the video today. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, like and comment, subscribe, comment if you're going to be taking this journey with me. Let me know what your thoughts on Tolkien are, and I hope to see you again in the next one.